My freshman year of high school, I had my heart broken 3 times. The first happened over the summer when 2 of my best friends moved away, one to Florida and one to Parachute, Colorado, which, despite being in state, was still 4 hours away. The second one was a little more subtle. My sister was leaving for college, and I needed to adjust to being an only child when usually I had at least 1 or 2 siblings living in my house. The last one hurt the most, not because it was the worst situation, but more because I was already so broken before it even happened. I felt alone at school, and I felt alone at my house, so I poured into my relationship with my boyfriend. Our relationship wasn't exactly healthy. It was full of insecurities and fights, and to say the least, he broke up with me over winter break. And with no school to get up for, I sat in my room in the dark almost every day, and because I couldn't get up without being forced. And on top of that, I lost 10 pounds within 2 weeks because I physically could not will myself to eat. This was my rock bottom. But in the spring of that same year, I met Rhoda Penmark. She was a little girl of 8 years old. She was charismatic, manipulative, and completely insane. And for 2 hours one night, I got to lose myself in the art of becoming her. Rhoda Penmark was the lead character in the play The Bad Seed. And portraying her was the most exciting thing I've ever done, not because it was my first lead role or because all of my work had paid off, not even because insane characters are like candy to actresses and actors, but because on that night I wasn't myself. I had no anxiety, no voices in my head. I was Rhoda. And the way I spoke and acted wasn't memorization, but instinct from doing it for so long. For the first time in so long, I was pouring myself into something that wasn't my relationships with people. And I started to see myself as an asset to theater and music in that world. And through losing myself in that character, I found my favorite part of myself, the theatrical part. I should have changed that a while ago. Theater and music haven't been the cure-all to my anxiety or my depression, but having an outlet to express myself while also having such a wonderful support system within it have allowed me to succeed in ways I wouldn't have thought possible 3 years ago. Because of this, I wanted to show other people how they can affect a person's mental health as well as their ability to succeed in school, and ultimately show why I think they need more funding. It's an unfortunate but kind of obvious reality that most arts programs are underfunded, and when budget cuts come, they're often the first to go. But the arts can be so impactful to everyone who supports them, whether it's by going to plays, listening to music, or actually being the person to create the music or create the plays. Oh, they're out of order, sorry. Oh no, I just went too far. This is AJ James. She is an extremely talented actress and musician, but this year she had the opportunity to connect with people through the arts under some very unique circumstances. After years of dealing with mental health problems, she finally decided to get help. She was committed to Children's Hospital Psychiatric Ward in September of 2017. She met many kids there, a handful of which shared her love for theater. And I'm going to read what she told me about this experience. She said, "We talked about Chicago, Rent, Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, Dear Evan Hansen, and many more. It brought us closer and even inspired us to keep living. Actually, one time, it was the last day for many of us. We were leaving the next day, and we all sang One Day More together in tears. We would miss each other, but for once looked forward to what our lives would hold afterwards." She then said, "I hold on to quotes from Heathers, Next to Normal, and Dear Evan Hansen very dearly to my heart that motivate me to keep moving, look for light, and see the beauty in the world." AJ feels about these musicals the way a lot of us feel about our favorite songs, books, or movies. They keep us moving. However, she also loves the performing aspect of the arts, as many of you may have seen her as the Mother Abbess in Sound of Music this year or Frenchie in Grease. And this provides a whole different kind of therapy because she has the thrill of becoming a new character while also receiving support from an entire cast. This is Nalita Bowles, a person who has struggled with depression for a very long time, but only recently decided to get help. This year, Nell's mother was killed by a drunk driver. And throughout the year, Nell has found solace through the drama department, not only because of the support she receives within it, but also because she has the ability to participate in shows. And she said, "I consider theater very therapeutic because no matter how long the show is, whether it's 10 minutes or 2.5 hours, I'm not myself for a brief moment in time, and whether I'm on stage or helping out backstage. I know that I'm working for something bigger than myself, and unless I'm in a character, then I feel like that character. There's something kind of relieving about just not having to be you for a fraction of your day. Now that I've shared the mental health portion of this talk, I want to get into how it can help students in school. How many of you listen to music while studying for a test or doing homework? Yeah. I personally get distracted really easily, and so putting my headphones in and listening to music is the best way for me to just ignore all of my surroundings and get done what I need to. A study was performed by the Alliance for Theater and Education, and it showed that students who took fine arts courses scored almost 15% higher than students who didn't take fine arts courses on the SAT. And in addition to higher test scores, students involved in the arts often tend to have better attendance records, higher reading comprehension, and an even easier time learning new languages. Another study was done on auditory processing that showed that students engaged in musical training were able to understand Mandarin with less difficulty than students who were not musically trained, because they had a better ability to understand pitch and identify the different meanings of the words because of that. It's also very clear that listening to music can help learn certain languages, because we listen to music in Spanish, so it's been incorporated into our curriculum because it works. But adding music doesn't only help us learn languages. It can even help us learn a math formula or all of the elements to the periodic table, because it sticks in our heads. There was another study done by West Virginia's Department of Education, which showed that students who had taken 2 or more fine arts courses were more likely to test at or above average on the ACT, and the percentage rose even higher with the more arts classes that they took. The same study showed that students who had taken more than one required art credit had a better odds of achieving mastery in mathematics and language courses. The last study I looked into was called the Harmony Project. It focused on underprivileged kids and gave them music education. And oftentimes these kids live in very noisy settings where they don't hear complex ideas or sentences very regularly, and this can damage their language skills greatly, according to this study. And 90% of the kids who were involved in this study went on to college, when usually there's a 50% dropout rate. The same researcher who performed this study, her name is Krause, had previously found that musical training helps with speech processing as well as reading. All of these studies show that music especially can help any student, whether they come from rough neighborhoods where they have a hard time with reading or speaking, and even if they come from really great neighborhoods where they get really good educations. They have benefits for anyone. There were even studies that showed dramatic emotional therapy can help people with dementia, not necessarily with remembering things, but more with just having an overall better quality of life, because they're more interested in getting up and doing things instead of just sitting in their rooms. The results of all of these studies show the same things, and that is that the arts can help us and are vital to education and, for people like me, everyday life. But it's especially clear at schools like JA that don't already get a lot of money that the arts aren't really a priority. You may have noticed that for every play we do, we use the same 4 flats, flats that have had to be held up for over 45 minutes in a play so that they wouldn't fall on people in the middle of the show. Additionally, it's taken over 20 years of JA being a school for them to even make plans for a theater. And in addition to that, every single choir or theater class, if you've ever been in them, you know that there's 40 kids packed into a room that would normally hold 20, because there are so many kids wanting to take these classes and such a tiny room to hold them. And these circumstances are why we're all really excited for the expansion project. But more schools need to expand, and they need to reach out to arts programs and allow them the resources they need to thrive and help students in all of the ways I've talked to you about today. Music and theater are such a huge part of my own life and so many lives around the world. It's such an incredible outlet for people, especially teenagers, because a lot of us are bursting at the seams with emotion and have no idea how to direct it. And it's a program that deserves so much recognition and support, and it is a program that has saved millions of lives, including my own. Thank you. There we go.